Thank you all for joining us for His Eminence's lecture this morning. I know our schedule's been a little tight, so without further ado, thank you, Your Eminence.
Thank you. Thank you for being together again. It is a great joy to be in this conference of Leadership 100 on our 28th annual conference. And I welcome again all the wonderful brothers and sisters, but allow me to mention by name Mr. Michael Psaros, Archon Michael Psaros, for a simple reason that he just came directly from Amsterdam, Holland, to be with us today and leaving then immediately for Berlin, Germany. This is why I mentioned. This is an opportunity in which we have plenty of hospitality, and hospitality in the deeper sense, not as offering services, food and drink and a place to stay, but hospitality as an expression of love, of friendship, of communication, of opening to each other. And this is why I thought that it would be a nice idea to deal with this topic. Hospitality, I'm going to use the Greek term philoxenia as an expression not only of love among us, but as an expression of love for the stranger, the alien, the outsider, the one who is not of our own. So this is my topic today. And we are going to just deal with this as briefly as we can. First, as it was lived in the ancient times before Christ, and as it happened afterwards, after the gospel. Let me begin by clarifying that we have a problem of translation of the Greek word philoxenia. The English that we would use, hospitality, is something that means offering services of food, drink, as I said, housing, etc. But the Greek philoxenia is a very different kind of word. It's a composite word. The first part, philo, and the second, xenia. Philo is from the verb philo, that means I love. Xenia or xenia, I'm sorry with this X pronounced Z in English. Xenia is, the second part, is the stranger, the foreigner, even sometimes the enemy. So philoxenia is the love for the alien, the outsider, the one not of ours, even an enemy. This is the way I'm going to deal with the subject. So I'm based on the original sense of philoxenia, not the sense of hospitality, or if you want to have the hospitality, think of hospitality plus. Not hospitality just as we read it plainly. Hospitality plus, which is the love for the persons outside and the expression to be done to the outsiders. Philoxenia, or hospitality in ancient cultures. There is a big difference from what we have today. In ancient cultures, at the dawn of civilization, there was no land like the United States, where we have in a big towering statue inscribed there with the statement, it's in the Ellis Island, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. In the ancient world, the foreigner, the stranger, was in a way the enemy. And xenophobia was an established social phenomenon, even a virtue. Abraham Lincoln, speaking in a campaign speech in the Wisconsin State Fair, 1859, gave an educated appraisal of this condition when he said, and I'm quoting, "From the very first appearance of man upon the earth down to very recent times, the words stranger and enemy were quite or almost synonymous. Long after civilized nations had defined robbery and murder as high crimes and had affixed severe punishments to them, when practiced among and upon their own people, respectively, it was deemed an offense, but even meritorious in cases when this was applied to a foreigner, robbery and killing." In Latin, we have that the word of xenos, of foreign, the same for enemy. That's characteristic of a cultural understanding. The word xenos presents a similar ambiguity in meaning in the extensive article of Theological Dictionary. They say that there is a very important discussion about the foreign as someone who is at the same time a foreigner, an alien, and an enemy. The identification of foreigners as enemies is found in languages throughout the world. The motive for ancient xenophobia is well stated by Philip Hamilton Grierson. The dread with which in ancient world the stranger is regarded is largely due to the universal belief in his magic powers. The stranger, the unknown, is not simply a human being, is someone who might, in ancient cultures, be a carrier of powers, magic powers. The stranger is looked as belonging sometimes to and believing to strange gods, or sometimes might be a fake appearance of a god in human form in order to test. So that immediately places a condition of fear and enmity towards the foreigner. We know that in ancient earliest times, a foreigner enjoyed no protection under any condition. But we have two exceptions. First, among the Israelites, and then among ancient Greeks. In ancient Israel, the God of Israel, quotation mark, defends the cause of the fatherless and widows and loves the alien, giving him food and clothing, according to the biblical text of Deuteronomy chapter 10, verses 18. And in Leviticus, another book of the first 5 books of the Old Testament, we have again the reason given to Israel for the share of care. There we read, "When an alien lives in your land, do not mistreat him. The alien living with you must be treated as one of your native born. Love him as yourself, for you were aliens in Egypt. That's a reference. You were for centuries aliens in Egypt, and you remember, therefore treat the alien properly. The alien was protected among the Jewish people. Even if you didn't treat him personally, properly, you should be punished. A second exception was found among the ancient Hellenic peoples. They developed strong customs at Xenia, called Xenia or philoxenia, caring for the foreigner. In Homer's Odyssey, for instance, the institution of Xenia or philoxenia, hospitality, is woven into the text repetitively. It's a standard feature in the Homeric text. The reason for kindness to strangers was among the Hellenes, as among the Hebrews, based on religion. Who could know if the xenos, the foreigner, is once a representative of a deity, or even sometimes a deity itself? The top god in the ancient Greek Dodecatheon of Olympus, Zeus, had also the qualification, adjective of Xenios, the god that is protecting the foreigners. Now, the Xenos was also sometimes, in ancient times, related to the fear of severe diseases. The people didn't know about viruses and microbes and things like that, and they thought that the foreigner was bringing deadly diseases. So that was one more additional reason for being suspicious and not so friendly always about the foreigner. In the Christian tradition, we have a very different situation. We have philoxenia, or hospitality, in the real sense of loving the alien, the foreigner. If we dig into the history of the first 3 centuries, the very fast and very radical expansion of Christianity was due to this understanding. The apostles and the early Christians dealt with foreigners. They were out of Israel, and they dealt continuously with none of their own. But because of their opening, they managed, within the first, second, third century, to have big numbers of these foreigners as integral parts of the church. The big success was due to this tremendous opening of philoxenia. St. Paul, writing to Romans, he says, even as Christ welcomed you to the glory of God, so receive not only each other, but the outsiders. So it's imitating Christ, who opened the gospel to everybody, that the love of the foreigner is established on a very firm ground. The Christian community exists simply because of the act of God, and God that is considered the ultimate other, and therefore any human other than us has to be received with love. We have a beautiful occasion in one of the parables used by the Lord, the parable of the dinner created and instituted by a good man who represents God there. What happens there is he invited the people, the original invited people, symbolism for Israel, they refused to come under various excuses. And then the master of the dinner said to the servant, come, go out, and please bring anyone, the people who are poor, lame, maimed, blind. And the servant went out and tell after that to the master, sir, what you commanded has been done, and still there is room in the place of dinner. And the master said to the servant, go out to the highways and hedges and compel people to come in that my house may be filled. It's a very clear indication of this tremendous opening towards the people that otherwise they wouldn't have any place at the dinner. And so in the New Testament, philoxenia, or hospitality to the stranger, is celebrated as an occasion for offering love and an opportunity for high rewards. We read in the Epistle to the Hebrews, let brotherly love continue. Do not neglect to show hospitality, philoxenia, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. You never know if the stranger might be even an angel in disguise. So you have the Philadelphia, the brotherly love, accompanied by philoxenia. So we read again in the same text, η Philadelphia menetto, της φιλοξενίας μη επιλανθάνεσαι. Let Philadelphia stay, don't forget the philoxenia. Now, we have this kind of situation, and we have another very important passage in the New Testament again, and this comes from the Gospel of Luke. He said, the Lord said to his people, when you have a dinner, don't invite only friends and relatives who are able to respect the invitation and respond the same way. But invite poor, maimed, handicapped, blind, and you will be blessed because you are sure that they are in no position to return the favor. So do that even without looking at anything in terms of return, which means do that out of pure love for the outsider. Of the many countercultural aspects of early Christianity, this spirit of love for strangers, this philoxenia in action, would have been among the most controversial items. The contemporary, at that time, society would think that these Christians either are crazy or naive beyond correction if they do what they do, to invite and open themselves and their communities to the stranger and the alien. But the Christians insisted that they have to follow the teaching of the Lord and therefore create this situation. Therefore, we have in one of the early texts of Christianity, the first Clement, the first epistle to Clement, that's around 110 AD, in which the author says, who is not aware of the magnificence of your hospitality? Magnificence of hospitality, being something for which the Corinthians, he wrote to the Corinthians at that time, they were well known. It would not be an exaggeration to say that within the early church, the exercise and practice of philoxenia, of hospitality, became a mark of distinction and even a key criterion for selecting the leaders of the community. This is why St. Paul, writing in his pastoral epistles, that the leaders of the community must, among other attributes and virtues, display philoxenia, the love for the outsider. But the virtue of love for the stranger was not just for the select few in position of prominence. Exhortations for philoxenia were addressed to everyone. And that's why we have not only to communicate, so to say, with the needs of the needy outsiders, but even to be after them. Την φιλοξενίαν διώκοντες, chasing after philoxenia, chasing after the people who are the foreigners and are in need. We have in the New Testament, however, the best example, which is by the Lord himself and is offered in chapter 25 of the Gospel of Matthew. It is the famous scene of the second coming and the last judgment by the Christ. And there we read the Lord saying, I was hungry and you offered me food. I was thirsty and you offered me water. I was naked and you offered me clothing. I was strange and you took me in. I was in prison and you visited me. I was sick and you came to me. And these 6 items are repeated 4 times in this pericope. The important thing is that, among other things, Jesus uses for himself the term xenos, alien. Xenos imin. I was xenos, and you have received me. And the people say, when it happened? And he said, since you have done it to my brothers, the least of my brothers, the least of our human beings, you did it to me. But he takes for himself the title of xenos. The par excellence xenos is Jesus Christ, and therefore becomes an eternal, an incomparable symbol of any xenos, of any alien, of any outsider. There is no doubt that contemporary communities of faith have shown extensive and remarkable activities of offering philoxenia. This Leadership 100 assembly is one specimen of this type of philoxenia. We are enjoying it to a tremendous degree. But how about not the conventional philoxenia of offering food, drink, and shelter, but the philoxenia as love for the outsider, the hospitality plus. Well, among the societies and nations of our present world, one cannot help but wonder if philoxenia in the real sense has any place. As you can imagine, I selected this topic because the topic, although at the beginning, at first look, seems to be a limited topic to hospitality in the conventional sense, it offers a tremendous perspective on issues like discriminations, racial conflicts, or any other thing that has to do with difficulty in human relations because of the other, the alien, the foreigner, the none of ours. be that a difference of skin color, be that a difference of culture, any kind of difference. So this kind of attitude, human attitude, seems to be not that strong, and we try to resolve issues of that kind of nature and magnitude politically or with any other strategies. But in essence, what happens here is, can we have love as a component in dealing with this type of issues? Sometimes, you know, you might encounter unusual conditions. Think what happened with this terrible situation of massive refugee waves, one after the other, hitting the European coast, Greece, Italy, Spain. Imagine the situation when in the islands of the Aegean, Mytilene, Kos, for instance, you have refugees that are double the local population. What do you do then? You let them as they come on boats, let the boat sink and get rid of them? Or if we were living in antiquity, that would be the case. Not, however, our people have shown this type of thing. It's an amazing witness of real love and concern, which is really beyond description. So there are still this kind of manifestation or manifestations of love and care for the foreigner. But let me go back for a moment. And it would be nice to remember the example of Abraham. Since you hear sometimes talk about the Abrahamic religions, in other words, religions in which Abraham is recognized as a significant figure, namely Judaism, Christianity, Islam. What happens then? Let's remember with Abraham, and I will now use here a text from St. John Chrysostom speaking about an incident in the life of Abraham when Abraham was visited by 3 strangers. And we have there the description of a tree. It was an oak with the name of Mamre. So he received them, totally strangers, and St. John Chrysostom says, and I read from his text, Abraham received these men that passed as travelers, as he thought, and he did not leave to his servants to make the preparations for their entertainment, but took the great part of the service upon himself and his wife Sarah, and asked his wife to prepare the food necessary, though he had at that time 318 servants in his estate, but he himself did whatever was needed in preparing and serving the 3 strangers. Thus ought ever to exercise hospitality by our own personal actions, that we may be sanctified by doing what Abraham did, taking personal care and not letting other people do the job, although he could do that. As leaders in our communities, we are facing the serious problem of differences, conflicts. It's human nature, and sometimes we are involved also with political aspects in dealing with these issues. I would like to humbly suggest that we should not hesitate to show our Christian identity, our Orthodox identity, which has been always marked by the highest degrees of philoxenia, not only love for the stranger and the foreigner, but also of just as much possible of care. It's not easy, but what is easy if we live in a world that has plenty of different opinions and theories and understandings of the reality? So it's one more difficult task, but we have to offer it because this is a task not only of offering a witness to the gospel, but to offering light when light is needed for the minds of the people who handle these issues on a political or state or strategic planning level. Thank you for listening.